Hey, everybody. Welcome to Through the Sightglass, the podcast that dives deep into the fascinating world of craft beer and celebrates the incredible individuals who shape its vibrant landscape. Join us on a journey where we explore the nuances of this amazing industry and the remarkable people who contribute to its richness and diversity. Today, I'm sitting down with David at No Boat Brewing. Thanks for having me, David. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for coming in, man.
So, I like to start off every podcast, kind of like your hometown or where you call that, how you grew up.
Yeah.
And where you align in your siblings.
Sure.
So we can start there.
Okay. So I was born on the east side, but I grew up in Redmond, Washington.
Okay.
I'm an only child.
Oh, there you go.
Very special.
Top of the competition.
Special boy.
Yeah.
But grew up my whole life out this way. And then for college, actually ended up going out to Minnesota. And then lived a little bit in Australia. And then I actually got my master's at UC Davis in winemaking.
Okay.
And then making wine in Napa. Ended up pulling a job up here in Woodinville, leading a production winery. And then sort of serendipitously ended up back this way, which was not necessarily the plan. But ended up back in Washington after like 7 years away.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ground covered. That's awesome.
It was a cool vibe.
Cool.
Yeah.
So did your what were your parents like growing up? What they do?
Sure.
Because I know this is a family business,
Of course.
so we can get into that later. But I'm
a pretty
interested.
classic East Side King County kid.
Okay.
Folks were both. My mom's been at Microsoft actually for 30 plus years.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Yeah. She's still there and crushing it. And then Pops was at Microsoft for a stint and kind of just bounced around the financial sector a bit.
Okay.
And, he kind of provides, fast forwarding to No Boat. He's sort of the back end, and I'm the front end of how we run things here.
Okay.
Basically. Yeah, which makes sense.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely too. I mean, I'm not trying to inflate your parents' ego, but obviously well astute, educated.
Did my best.
Yeah, smart
Yeah.
people. So that reflects that really well.
For sure.
Awesome. So went to school.
Yep.
Where'd you go to school at?
I went to a very small college in Minnesota called St. Olaf College.
Oh,
which a lot of people can ping because it's the town. St. Olaf is the town Betty White's character is from in Golden Girls.
Oh my gosh.
But it's not actually town. The town is Northfield. The college is St. Olaf.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
How about you? Did you grow up this way?
Yeah, I grew up in the Purdy area.
Oh, wow.
Literally like right near the Purdy Spit Bridge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just right under the bridge.
Yeah. But I'm a part of a blended family. Parents separated when I was young, but so I'm one of 7.
Wow.
And I'm middle from
Middle plus or middle minus?
I'm middle for both. I
Sure.
have blood siblings. I'm one of 3. I'm the middle for that, and then I guess
And then,
then our
stacked around that?
Yeah, and then our step siblings, I'm the direct middle. I'm 3 of 5. But then I do have 2 half siblings, so that I guess that would make me like middle plus.
Okay.
At that point.
So you're like barely middle old.
Yeah, but I went through enough of the middle stage,
Sure.
middle child era from all my beginnings.
You
So
really
I have definitely the belt and the title and defending champion of that. That's
Hey, middle's
for sure.
a good place to be. Safe.
Yeah.
You can blame up and blame down.
I think not for my case. My older brother, he always did a good job of somehow I was the one who always caught the timeout or the grounding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I was very wouldn't say rebellious, but wanted to have my voice be heard
Sure.
because I never felt like it was.
They always throw the flag on retaliation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're always like, you're too outgoing and expressive.
Sure.
And it's like, this is just how I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny, man.
So grew up in Purdy, and then eventually went to like school in Gig Harbor High School.
Cool.
And then out of high school, I had family in Portland. Oregon and Washington are basically like one big state to me. I spent so much time going. I know there's differences.
Oh, I disagree so much.
You
but
do?
Yeah.
I love that.
I just get like the willies when I cross the state border. I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't know. I can't pump my own gas. Like,
Oh yeah. Well,
but
now
I think
you can.
I didn't grow up that way.
Okay.
Like in the sense of like I never used to go to Oregon as a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm still just like it's unfamiliar territory.
Yeah. We would go there a lot because we had family down there. So that's why for me, and especially like hiking, I had no problem driving like 3 or 4 hours into Oregon to go do a hike and then drive back, But yeah, went to community college in Tigard, dropped out of that, moved back to Washington and moved back to Gig Harbor where my family was living.
Sure.
And was just trying to figure out, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I was like serving at Spiro's at the time in Gig
Oh,
Harbor.
wow.
Yeah, which was, great because I'm a server in Gig Harbor, so I made a massive amount of money.
Of course.
And I spent it all at REI, and I spent it all at like Pint Defiance and 7 Seas. And so that was kind of how I decided. I was like, I don't think I want to serve for the rest of my life. So I started working at REI, and then I also got a job at 7 Seas. So I was like, I'm just going to run both. See
Cool.
which one I like more.
Cool.
And after 2 years of doing 2 jobs, I was like,
7
I
Seas.
like beer more. So,
Cool.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
exciting.
you can kind of do both. Like, beer's not too serious.
Yeah. No, I think I do know my idea at the start was I was going to go so head on to it. It's like, I just need to focus. So I was like reading books, trying to learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I also learned real quick that when the sales in the brewery is slow, there's usually you get taught things, but a lot of the time it's just like, oh, there's not much to do today, so just clean kegs and do this and go home. And I was like, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a day.
That's a day. We'll call that one good. But so you, so college in Minnesota.
Yep.
And what'd you study?
I studied biology and environmental science. I had 2 degrees. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was brewing at all in your mind at that time, or?
So at the time, brewing was not on my mind. At the time, winemaking was on my mind.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I went straight from my undergraduate pursuits to directly into UC Davis for my master's in viticulture and enology.
Nice.
Which is a 2-year program.
Mm-hmm.
Through that program, worked in Napa Valley making wine. Also worked in Walla Walla between my 2 years helping out Pepperbridge for that was my large production hands-on experience. And then got hired to run a show in Napa, and then honestly got an even better job offer, not even trying to fish for it, the same summer. So I was 24 years old and had been away from home for 7 years, and took over a wine production in Woodinville, an ultra premium spot, and ended up back home. And then at the same time, the idea had kind of been around for what if we decided to do a brewery, which was based off of us making Vietnamese lager that had gone over really well with a new restaurant stateside.
Okay,
in
I've heard of
Capitol Hill.
that. Yeah.
So that whole project was all homebrew, and they really liked it. So we knew we had a receptive audience to our homemade beer, and it kind of spurned the idea of if one day we decide to do the brewery, we at least know we make beer that some people like.
100%.
Yeah.
I know people will come drink this.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were home brewing, was that just friends and family, or were you taking it to markets? I feel usually a lot of it is friends and family and neighbors that come over and you're like, hey, try this. I'm doing something.
There was a lot of that. And then there was there was some bringing, legitimately I used to brew 5 gallons at a time, obviously classic home brewing. So a sixtel basically, via Hoy. And then used to just let people hand it out as growlers and try it.
Oh, awesome!
Because the buzz we got was stateside opened in December of 14 or something like that, maybe 2015. And they had a bunch of their regulars and all their staff and all this stuff tried this Via Hoy we had made, and the reception was super strong. So in doing that, I was well, I can. At the time, I wasn't living here. So, whenever I'd be home, I would just, brew another sixtel.
Yeah, where were you living at the time?
I was in Napa.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would come home frequently enough. It's a 10-hour drive. It's not that bad. And that quickly kind of spurned both the idea of, my pops and I being maybe it would be fun to open a brewery together. The initial concept was I would, consult on the operation and, fly up once a month. And then pretty quickly realized I needed to be on hand more in order for it to go forward and stuff.
Yeah, to be successful.
Exactly, and to honestly get it open. And I had experience in I'd craft cocktailed before and stuff, so I had a lot of service and front of house experience too. So we just kind of figured out it's a good operation if you can kind of, with your background in finance, like my dad, kind of run back end and I can run front end and production and all that stuff. And then ultimately our friends built this insanely huge warehouse in Snoqualmie.
Yeah.
And we're hey, we put a double doors on the other side of it if you guys ever want to open a brewery.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's how we ended up here in the first place. Yeah, which is it's a long story, but basically that's how we ended up in Snoqualmie Ridge.
Yeah.
We knew we had space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say when I first came in here, because it's funny, so 2014, showing your homebrew to stateside, and people were like, this is great. You guys opened up in October 2016, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a short time frame to go from this is like a plausible idea to full open
To be honest,
brewery.
I had I had no business being a production brewer. I had a ton of I was a very talented winemaker.
Yeah.
And I was honestly, when we started this project, I was 24 years old. So I was in over my skis. At the time, there was a brew house manufacturer out of Colorado named Colorado Brew Systems. They're no longer in business.
Okay.
But they basically fabricated these very elaborate and biggest you could possibly manage brew in a bag systems. So, you had you would mash, you'd pull out, you had basically a giant colander that held your grain. You'd literally winch it out, drop that, and you'd start boiling that same vessel as your kettle.
Oh, wow.
So that's what we started on, and it had, internal heating elements and stuff, and it burned beer, and we had to figure out so many different, we literally, while boiling, had to recirculate our boil with a pump, or else the beer would sit too much in the bottom.
Yeah, and it'd get all caramelized. Yeah.
So it was a brutal system, honestly, to learn on as a professional brewer, but it taught me a lot of flaws, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a fast track to troubleshooting knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. And we were talking about before we went on, I rewired that thing on 220 volt legitimately over 50 times. So I'm basically a 220 volt electrician at this point.
See, that's kind of the beauty of this job is you get to learn skills, but sometimes there's not teachers. It's just open it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of, thank God we have YouTube. There's a lot of if I pull X and Y but ground stays, what happens versus the reverse operation? Yeah.
I remember doing that a lot with Travis on the Wild Goose with specifically our date coder or on the Comac. And it's always hard sometimes to get a tech online, especially for the Comac. Totally. They were in Italy, so the time zones were so different. And that was my first time ever kind of feeling the puckering feeling of I'm about to pull a plunger out. I hope I don't mess this up, because then it's now a tech has to come out.
We're not doing this for a while.
Yeah, exactly. There's no packaging being involved. Well, I mean, your family, from especially what you say about your mom and dad, just this little bit, you guys are a family of doers, it seems like. I mean, you having that attitude of just all right, well, I'm just going to learn, figure it out. I know I can adapt these skills.
Totally.
Yeah.
I had, obviously people ask a lot about, similarities between wine and beer production, and I'd say there's a lot of similarities and a ton of differences. I always describe beer as baking and wine as cooking. Yeah. But, I knew I had a good background in fermentation science. I had a lot of good, actual science behind, my theories. And I did take some brewing courses at Davis, and then actually even went back and did, they have, multiple master's brewing course loads you could do. I didn't do the full, 12-week one, but I just, to freshen up actually even before we opened this place, I think in, winter of 16, I went down there and took a 4-week course or something like that.
Gotcha.
Just to kind of get my mind a little more in obviously the enzymes are different between beer and wine. So brushing up on that, and then, we slowly, as every single brewery is, we were let's open in June of 16, and late October of 16.
Set dates are not a set date.
Exactly. Yeah. We set a friends and family date that we had to pull back, which was a lot of drama. Yeah. But that was a classic, and it's been 8 years almost now, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah, time goes way too fast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think it's also impressive too of starting at 24, because there's a lot I learned. I started at 22 years old, but just keg washing. Yeah. I would not be confident myself to run a beer business, and that's probably because I'm too self-conscious in my head. But that's a huge cliff to jump into. Yeah. And I'm always impressed people do it, because I think it really tests your survival skills. But also you learn great under stress. It's when you have to do this, or if this goes under, there's major repercussions. That's a good way to get you moving and get you pushed in the right direction.
It was interesting for a lot of reasons. One was, we had a system that really wouldn't allow me to push our beer to the place I wanted to push it to, which was frustrating. But honestly, we pushed that little 4-barrel brew in a bag to its maximum. I think we did. There was a year we did a 500 or 550 barrel production on that thing.
That's awesome.
Which was insane, because
that's super impressive.
It was crazy. A double batch brew day on that thing was 15 hours.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you were doing like one of our bigger IPAs, like your yield was luckily 6 barrels.
Yeah.
So it was, and our tap room is in the summer, especially like, I mean, we can have 200 plus outside, another 150 in. So it's
Yeah.
like, there were days where you'd watch our entire brew week get consumed like on a Saturday. And it was just like,
That's both terrifying, but also super
it was cool.
pleasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was cool, but at the same time, we always said it was like, it's a good problem, which is still a problem.
Yeah. 100%. I think that's, it's a good point to, I think, max out your systems to the point where it's like, we need something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a small little tangent. I think that's a lot of problems with like smaller breweries when they're wanting to ramp up is they ramp up their equipment. It's like too big and too large, and they don't know if the demand is there, and they're hoping
to find it. Yeah.
I've worked at plenty of breweries that have done that, and it stinks when it doesn't pan out because, then it leads to like cutting people in the winter or sometimes cutting jobs, and that means more people have to pick up more work.
Totally.
And it's always on the hope it's like, oh guys, it'll come around, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's what sinks breweries. So I think that's, even though it was probably hard and super painstaking and not where you wanted it to be, I think that's like a good point to have and then learn from. And I think that's what I hope future breweries keep that in mind of like, it may stink for a short period of time, but it's going to provide you so many longer benefits.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I would say like, our original business concept was we thought we would be 75% wholesale or something like that. And the first 2 years, I mean, we were probably 95% tap room because of how busy this location was, which was great. Yeah. But at the same time, it was just like, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen until you open the doors.
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting math to deal with. And obviously now wholesale is like a huge component of what we do. And in 2020, we got a 10-barrel 3-vessel, well, technically 4 with the HLT, online that we got from Premier, which obviously lets us pull a ton more beer.
Yeah.
But also, there's days where I wish it was a 15. But I'm happy it's a 10. When we drop the big fat hazies, it's like, it'd be sick to have like 10 more barrels of this on hand right now. 100%,
yeah. But, rather than just having to have those back-to-back brew days.
But I'd rather need to brew again versus being like, I don't think we need to brew for 2 weeks. Like, that's a bad feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you probably know this as a brewer, but I think brewers with a lot of downtime on their hands can be dangerous. Squirrel in the head, and you just get cabin fever.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the new math for us is like, how hard do we want to push it in this, current brewing climate and all that stuff. And, I mean, we're pushing it really hard.
Yeah.
But also, it's weird right now.
Yeah.
And it has been weird for a while. I feel like we've been open for almost 8 years, and I feel like the market has fully changed like 3 separate times.
Yeah, I think it gets faster.
Big time.
Before you felt like it took like 10 to 12 years. I mean, we obviously saw, I think, a lot of the big boom from, you could say, 2006 or 2008 up until like 17, 18.
Yep.
There was so much, and it was all just going way so fast.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, obviously, COVID did a lot, but I think initially COVID did a lot that was like inevitable in terms of like, there were places that you saw close maybe you're like, that was probably coming, but like this just made it happen way faster.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I mean, the market's just changed in ways that I still think we don't know.
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting component of ramping up for us because, I mean, so we had our system arrived in like early November of 2019. Install was late November of 19, and then we had all the like the boiler work and all that stuff. And we had, I think it was 10 hours of boiler work left the day shelter in place hit. So our system just sat unusable for 4 months.
Weren't able to
couldn't do anything because the boiler was not hooked up.
And
there was fully, it was like union work that needed to be done, and rightfully so. They weren't on the job. And it was just like, just had to sit and look at it for 4 months.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Yeah,
a lot of depressing emotions.
Yes. Oh yeah. But it was like emotions. We obviously knew one day that thing's hooked up and it'll be really nice.
Yeah. So No Boat, you're all based here in the city of Snoqualmie. And I think, is Snoqualmie Brewing still around? Is it still here?
They are. Yeah, so they're like OG. Snoqualmie Falls Brewing opened in 98.
I still remember like their steam train porter logo. I saw it at this Pint Defiance one time. I was like, that's a cool logo.
Yeah, they're really OG. Since we opened, their ownership has flipped and changed. And I mean, they still remain. I mean, the way our city, I actually live in Seattle, but the way Snoqualmie operates is it's almost like two separate towns. So like they're in like Old Town, which is like properly a mile and a half down the hill.
Okay.
And then up here we're on the ridge, which is like, I mean, basically it's
Newer development.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, there's far enough away that they kind of just operate separately. But yeah, I mean, they had some of the most like, I mean, Wildcat IPA was like kind of an OG around here. That and Black Raven's Trickster were kind of like the IPAs, I feel like, in like 2005.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So they're OG, and they got a cool little spot on the river. They built out like a little patio down there too, which is cool. And then we got some homies in North Bend now, which is like 10 minutes down the freeway still. But Volition, they're out this way too. They're really good.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, they're cool.
I'll have to check them out. I've not heard of them.
They're great. They're offshoots of Postdoc.
Oh, okay.
In Redmond. Yeah. They're great.
Do you feel that Snoqualmie in the community around here has been like a huge supporter? I was talking with Dave about this in Obelisk, and kind of like how that town is like, the story is like ride or die for a lot of like their local businesses.
For sure.
Do you feel like that's a similar feeling here in Snoqualmie?
There's no question. I mean, like I said, our original business plan had a huge wholesale component, and we literally couldn't even deliver beer for wholesale because of how popular we were right off the bat. And this is like a huge community for us. When we were the first business on this side of the Parkway.
Oh, wow.
And now, there's like a Safeway and drugstore and all this. Like there's a hotel that shares a parking lot with us. That wasn't here when we opened. So it was like the only reason you'd come across the road was for us. Or if you had like worked at one of these offices spots down here. Yeah, but that was like it. So we've seen that evolution. The community really loves us. Weekdays, if you walk in our tap room, it's like pretty hard regulars. And then on the weekends, everyone will tell you it's just whoever. Like
especially when it's nice out.
It's,
I mean, I've been here off of Rattlesnake Ridge or Ledge and stuff. And it's hard to find a spot.
It really is, and that's another good problem. But yeah, we've expanded the patio multiple times. Like it just keeps coming.
Yeah,
we opened like last summer. We did kind of a little 21 plus bar in the back that we've kind of converted into like a permanent record pop-up that sells vinyl.
Oh, very cool.
So we're always trying to like bring.
When you say bar, is it like cocktails and things?
No.
Okay,
just,
gotcha.
it's like 6 taps back there that because our tap room's like kid friendly, dog friendly.
Okay, gotcha.
It's like kind of if you want a little change up. We got
yeah.
it back there. And we're still working on that concept, but we do have on weekends now like a permanent record pop-up that I curate. I'm like really into records. And, I'm trying to bring cool stuff up here, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great, too. A lot of people doing, like, a lot of pop-ups and markets. It gets people to come into your space, and even if they don't buy something, they now are, like, aware of it. Eventually, I think that gets people to be like, oh, I'll try a beer. I'll have a beer and, like, walk around and do those things.
Well, we're in a really unique location where I think there's some insane thing. Like, the Carnation Valley, which is an agricultural valley, is the closest functioning agricultural valley to any major U.S. city.
Oh, wow.
So we're at the tail end of that valley, and we have all these farmers that live, 10 minutes away from us, despite us being 30 minutes from downtown.
Yeah.
So we do like to create that community, and a couple summers ago, we started doing a lot of farmers markets. We still do probably 2 or 3 a year, and they're crazy.
Oh,
so
nice.
popular. Yeah. It's like, and I mean, we did a cool beer for our anniversary this past year, for our 7th anniversary. That was actually, a farm that's earnestly like less than a mile away from us malted a bunch of rolled oats for us.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It was really cool. And we're trying to do as much of that as we can. Yeah.
I think that's great. Especially, I think a lot of people are definitely more aware of where you get your food, drink, everything, even down to textiles. And having that support, I think we've seen a lot of like bad products. And then it's also a shame to see, and this is big in the beer industry, but Skagit Valley Malting closed. Mecca Grade is, I think, still up for sale, but you see a lot of this like craft malt, and people don't understand like the history. Like barley is so intimately, connected to like the start of not only just beer, but like human civilization.
Big time.
Once people learned that they could grow this consistently and rotate it, that's where you started to see a lot of these like major civilizations start to pop up, and that's like technology and everything just boomed from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we work with an ancient product for sure, and it's just about how we make it modern and fit it to the modern palate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I was gonna say too, I was wanting to come back to it. I feel like you guys were one of the first people to really implement food trucks and food truck rotations like early on.
Oh,
And-
yeah. We're probably pretty close, yeah. I mean, we pulled that, honestly, from some of the OG guys in Ballard.
Okay.
Like, back before, I mean, when it was basically just, like, Rubens and Stoop that were on, what was that, like, 45th? Or 15th, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I mean, like, Rubens and Stoop really rotated hard on trucks, and we were like, if we do the spot out in Snoqualmie, like, we got to pull that up here.
Yeah.
And it's a huge component of what we do. I mean, we probably have 25 or 30, like, on lock, always rotating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because I've had experience working in breweries with kitchens.
Yeah.
It's a huge money saver. Food is always such a big component to draw people in because
Totally.
people eat and drink, and that'll
Big
cause
time.
people to like eat and drink more.
For sure.
But the permitting and the installation, and I know some of my friends that run a brewery, they're going to listen to this and probably be like, "Oh yeah, you heard like our stories." But yeah, it can be really tough, and it's a really daring thing to do to open a brewery with a kitchen. It takes so much work.
I love food, and I just like love flavor, right? So like obviously cooking and being around food and all that stuff is like really intriguing to me, and I'm not quite yet bold enough to be like, I bet I could run a kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that bone in me.
Yeah. I think that's okay. There's people that are totally meant for
Big
that.
time.
Yeah.
No, we've actually. I mean, like I think a lot of breweries are. The question for us is like second tap room. It's not really a question for us. It's kind of an inevitability.
Like when's it going to happen?
Yeah. And we kick tires quite a bit, and definitely our second concept involves having like a permanent kitchen run by not us as part of it, so we can just have like always on site. Like we know like a dope kitchen is slanging next to our dope beer.
Like y'all would have the space and they would rent it from you,
or maybe even like co-own or something like that.
Okay.
But a component where it's like we know we don't have to worry about food because we got this great like kitchen, like literally in our space, sharing it.
Very true.
I mean, food like with beer is huge for us.
Yeah.
Big time.
So I especially like talking about food and kind of like the ingredients we use.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys in your team create beers and stuff, is it based off of like, oh, like I think this would be cool to do due to like trends, or is it just ideas that you guys come up with and talk with together? How does that process look like?
Yeah. There's a lot of different, I think, simultaneous processes. First of all, I would say for a brewery that's trying to stay like really modern and really avant-garde, we have a relatively high number of flagships. Like we have basically permanent handles of 3 lagers, Vietnamese, a Czech German hybrid Pilsner, and the Vienna.
Okay.
And then we have a permanent West Coast Pale, permanent West Coast IPA, basically a permanent West Coast Double IPA, and then a permanent but always changing single hazy.
Oh, okay. Like different hopping.
Yeah, well, it's the concept on that beer is it's called Under, which is an ironic little tip of the hat to New Zealand because it's down under.
Oh, nice.
And we have a really great contract with Freestyle Farms out of New Zealand.
Oh, awesome.
Which is, I mean, one of the best hop growers in the world right now. And because of that, we decided we just need to have a single IPA that permanently showcases New Zealand hops.
Yeah.
Because obviously, basically everything else we do is from an hour away in Yakima.
Yeah.
So that beer's a permanent, but like I think we're on its 16th iteration already or something. Which every time we just kind of hit it with like a little bit different mix of New Zealand stuff that we have on contract. It's a really cool beer.
That's amazing. Have you been to New Zealand?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. When I lived in Australia, I spent 2 or 3 weeks in Christchurch.
Oh, nice.
But I haven't. I was supposed to go to Hop Select this year, but my wife and I had a child 6 months ago, so I don't think we're doing New Zealand this year.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah,
and also sorry you can't go. Yeah.
Instead, he's hanging out with the grandparents, and we're doing like a really quick trip to Tokyo.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
It's a direct flight,
little
so it's
supplement.
easier.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, you being winemaking, New Zealand has such a great vintner program,
Yes.
and then their hop program. You know, I think I want to say it like started like probably 20 years ago, but it turned out it's been doing so well. I've always seen job postings where it's like, hey, if you guys like want to come work for like an internship or summer, you can come over on like a short work visa, and I'm like, oh, I need to.
It's
do that.
amazing.
Yeah.
The only thing that's frustrating is like for as much as a hub as like SeaTac is, like for whatever reason, there's no directs to Australia or New Zealand out of here. You either have to go to Vancouver, BC, or SF first.
Oh, interesting.
Which is kind of the reason we're going to Tokyo. I mean, we want to go to Tokyo really bad too, but there's just no direct down there. So we're like, whatever. We're like not hanging out with our 6-month-old for like a very short amount of time. Let's make sure it's a direct flight.
Yeah. Get the most out of it.
Yeah, big time. But yeah, I mean, they've been amazing to us. Like Nelson Savin's like a huge component of what we do on the hazy side of things. Like, we can get really philosophical about hazy IPA. We really put a lot of thought into it. It's not just like a churn and burn for us.
Yeah.
But Nelson's a huge backbone of that. We have a really nice select lot that we get to pick every year. And then Freestyle's also been, like, I mean, they're super avant-garde too. Like, we're lucky enough to be one of their research breweries, so we get like experimental stuff from them that like nobody
that's
else gets.
awesome.
It's really cool. And they're doing all these kind of interesting things with hop keefs too, where they actually are blending like fruit and hop. So like we just tossed in our actually under variant 15. We threw at pitch, we put in a keef that was a blend of Nelson and passion fruit.
Oh wow!
And the aromatics were insane. Like, totally
interesting.
Crazy. Yeah, it's really cool.
And that makes sense too, because a lot of that, like, concentrated, the hop keef, it's all for those like fruity, tropical, aromatic aromas.
Exactly.
So it's only going to saturate and pull more of that if you're going to blend it with that fruit that it's equivalent to.
Yeah, no, we treat it really, specially. Like, we really try to keep that resin in matrix too. So like we'll add T90 pellets as well as keep going, which keeps it from like, so just coating the stainless steel basically. It like stays in. Yeah.
Nice.
No, we I mean, hazy IPA is like, we spend a lot of time thinking about it. Yeah.
I think that I really enjoy, because I've obviously, like, working at Fort George, we do a lot of hazy too.
Yeah.
And I won't disclose the hopping rate we did, but I can tell you some of our beers, especially for the 210 batches, it was over, like 800 to 900 pounds of like hops for the dry hopping.
Yeah.
And to me, sometimes like you get that hop burn. Some people call it hot vomit, but there's just so much.
Those beers have to sit for a sec before you package.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah. And so I think, but for No Boats and others like you guys do for hazy, it's really nice, easy, approachable. It doesn't feel chewy. It also doesn't. I mean, it's like the nice amount of having so much fruit aroma and flavor in it without you being like, am I going to get allergies the next morning? Do I need to take,
totally.
like
what kind of pill solves this problem?
Yeah, Allegra. So I would say, like, kudos to you, because I remember that coming here again when you guys were like open. That was, I wasn't super into hazies. I was like, no, I'm a West Coast IPA, even though I drink CDA all the time, which some people are like, that's disgusting.
CDA has.
It's a cult following.
It is. Like, we don't have a good relationship, CDA and I, but I totally get the appeal.
Yeah. But, I really enjoy, and so like when you're looking at designing like a hazy IPA, because obviously, like you said, you have a rotating one with different hops, but it's a flagship. How did that come about?
Like, in terms of designing like under, or like ones beyond it? I mean, so we, honestly, our really modern program, like, where in its current iteration, was kind of made part in hand with the guys at Fast Fashion when they were here, like Matt Storm and Brian Strumke, because we hosted that brewery to open it. And we were kind of...
We say host, like contract brewed?
Yeah, no, actually not contract. They it's called an alternating proprietorship. So like, they like brewed, but also like they'd never use our system, so I helped like brew some of those beers. But like Brian Strumke, who owns Stillwater and is part of Fast Fashion, he had a concept on like a good hazy, and then like I kind of like, we did some feedback based off of like how we thought the system performed and that kind of thing. We came up with this original recipe that was actually a blend and base of probably like 25% two-row and then like 15-15 Pils and Golden Promise.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we'd adjunct. And I've actually recently been really toying with that.
The 25-15-15.
Yeah. Recently we just did there's a Pils and malt I really like out of the Czech Republic that we pulled in, and we did that like a 45% or 48%-ish, and then everything on top of that was adjunct, a mix of unmalted wheat, a little chip malt, and oat. And then in order to like be able to pull that thing over to kettle, we tossed like bioglucanase.
Okay, gotcha. So it wasn't so sticky?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that the performance on that is crazy. Like the haze and the mouthfeel is like unbelievable.
Awesome.
So we're really trying to push like those limits. I might even like go higher and higher oat. I know like the guys at Brewhouse are like doing like 40% oat and stuff, and that like scares me a little bit, but I don't know. Like I like flaked spelt. We just pulled in this sick flaked spelt actually from Link Malt.
Oh, awesome.
Which I love Link Malt.
Yeah, those guys up there are like so much fun.
Yeah, and also hilariously, like the week we pulled it in, like 2 days later, they won like a silver medal or something on like in craft malting for that like spelt malt or something.
Oh, you're like,
we haven't used it yet, so we're holding the fire. But Yeah, we're really trying to push limits on, because we hop like crazy. I mean, like, to be honest, like, we double dry hop everything we do on the hazy side. And our rates are like 7 to 8 barrel, like pounds per barrel. So we're like really pushing aromatics. We're doing a lot of that. Half that hop addition is happening at crash temp.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we're really trying to push just release of aromatics, and like limit any potential bittering that's coming out of that. But if you have to rest it, you have to rest it. But we're figuring, if you treat things right, you can turn these beers pretty well too.
Yeah,
you just have to be attentive. Yeah,
100%. And I will say too, I know a lot of hopping techniques have gotten so much better, even over the past 5-6 years. Like temperature wise, especially. Yep. I know a couple places I worked at. Once you harvested yeast and it was ready to drop, you would like dry hop it, like they would sometimes do it at like 55, 50. Yeah, exactly. And it takes I wouldn't say it takes a while, but sometimes you just have to think about it from a different perspective, where it's like, oh yeah, like expressing a lot of that lupulin oil and the things out of the pellets happens better at a warmer temperature than it does at a colder temperature. Because then at a colder temperature, you might be just using more hops but getting less amount. Yeah.
So we've developed, and we're constantly testing this, but currently we do like first dry hop at post primary firm temp. So like, I don't know, mid-60s or something, we'll do first dry. And obviously, we've harvested yeast by that point. Then we'll actually give it a day, drop it, and then if we think it's ready, we'll crash it, and eventually we do dry hop too at in the 30s.
Gotcha.
And we feel like we pull a ton of aroma second dry hop.
Oh, nice.
And having the master's degree, it's like you want to see white papers on this stuff, you never will. So it's just like all vibes and feel.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Hey, but I mean it's sometimes too. It's just like how your system works best.
For sure.
I've worked at 5 different breweries now, and taking stuff sometimes from one place to another, it doesn't work
translate
as well.
Yeah.
It's literally unique to everything they're on.
Time.
Yeah, that's super interesting. My brain's sitting here thinking and being like, well, that would make sense, because if you have expressed oils and already like warm saturated hops, and you throw something similar in it, and even though it's colder, they have something bigger to bind to.
I think that might be part of the concept. Yeah. When dude, we were doing all kinds of stuff where it's like, does holding your hops actually at like room temp for a day before introducing them out of the cooler, like increase your thiol? Because like you're not throwing cold pellet, you're throwing like
room warm pellet. Yeah.
And I don't know if we found any difference there, but once again, it's all vibes and feel.
100%. Yeah, it's all basically just like messing around in the kitchen and figuring out what the fuck works.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, a lot of the hop products coming out too have been interesting, especially now like thiolized yeast.
Big time. Which we haven't messed with, to be honest.
But I do know, like, I feel, so my big brewing mentor, he likes to use all fresh ingredients, but he uses, a lot of craft malt. Where he's at in Atlanta, they use, I think, North Carolina Malt House, great malt. But yeah, he doesn't want to use stuff that's like modified. To him, he is just like, the purity of the project and what I want to do and what I want to create. I don't want something that I know is like genetically modified to bring me this out. He's like, because that's part of the process, is kind of sometimes this wild aspect of how things can interact and happen.
I do think, like, we obviously saw, God, there's so many things that come and go, and I wouldn't say Phantasm's gone already.
Oh, yeah,
but, you see products like that come, and I remember watching a brewer try to get it out of their tank post-transfer, and it was like, it was legitimately like clay.
Just solid?
Yeah, because it's like grape must and like a little hop, T90, like all blended.
Yeah.
And that stuff intrigues, but it doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't call myself a purist, because I don't think anyone who's like doing all this crazy stuff for haze is necessarily rightfully called a purist, because we're all, I don't know, like any lager brewers looking at you and just like laughing their ass off. Like, what are you guys
There's
trying
definitely
to do?
division.
Yeah.
It's all in the realm, though.
But my philosophy is like, we'll do it all. But for me, there are things where I'm like, I don't know, if we're like adding grape must for aromatics, I don't know if we're just calling that hops.
True.
Yeah.
True. There was it popped up on my feed, but I think it was Bottle Logic Brewing had graham cracker dust or something they put into one, and they had to take a chainsaw. They had the ferment; it turned into like concrete. They were like chainsawing it out block by block.
Oh my god!
Because they couldn't get it out.
Yeah,
anytime
anytime we do that stuff, we're going hot side.
Yeah,
like, we're boiling the hell out of that. Yeah.
But that's one of those things like fuck around, find out. It's like,
time.
These are the boundaries of beer that we're figuring out.
This doesn't leave the tank.
Yeah, exactly. This tank is now just
it's a graham cracker
for this.
tank. Yeah,
exactly. Oh, that's exciting. Well, that's really awesome. I really like that process and idea. And this is what's cool is like meeting so many diverse people where they all have different mantras and
Big time.
ideals and values of how they want to do
For sure.
things.
And a thing for us is like, we're in the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, we're going to move a lot of IPA if we want to.
Yeah.
And we like making IPAs, but at the same time, like coming from wine, like wild ale production's like really important to me. Like all the winery programs I was able to take over and have influence over, I moved to like fully spontaneous ferment. So
Oh, nice.
I really like spontaneous ferment. We just haven't found our market for that yet in terms of like, we'll throw on like honestly like really sick like spontaneous ferment that's been in like Bordeaux for like 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of our audience here isn't necessarily looking for that.
Yeah.
But it's something we're pushing for because I love that style of beer. Like
Yeah.
I love mixed ferment, sour, all that stuff.
Do you have one that like sticks out to you?
We do this beer that I think, as most good beers do, started off as an accident, where we brew our Dunkel base and we actually even lager it for like 4 weeks, so short lagering. And then we'll transfer it into red wine barrel with the dregs of the previous batch. We call it Kingmaker, but it's a soured mixed ferment Bordeaux aged Dunkel.
Wow.
And it's a very luxurious beer, and it actually kind of calls back to the first time it was an accident because we actually like 4 years ago had a Dunkel ferment that just like had too much diacetyl for us to release.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, let's just throw this. We had a couple empty, fresh dump red wine barrels. Like, let's just throw it in and see what happens.
Yeah,
and
that
like,
yeast will eat it up.
yeah,
It'll get rid
yeah,
of it.
exactly. You give enough time, it's gonna happen. And like 6 months later, we came to it. We're like, this is one of the best like sour beers I've tasted in years.
Wow.
And it had like a lot of like we talk about introductions to craft beer. Like one of my first mind-blowing beers was the first time I had La Folie from New Belgium.
Oh yeah.
And now that program is like so diverse, but they used to just release like one a year. The first time I had it, I think in like 2014 or 15, it was just like really re-altered my concept of like beer production. Especially at the time, I was like in a master's program for winemaking, and I was like, this is a whole different situation I never thought about. And another beer like that for me back then was at the time Dogfish had made this really cool botrytis grape mix ferment beer called Noble Rot.
Oh yeah, I've had Noble Rot before.
And the first time I had that, it like blew my mind as well. And I was like, this is like where I'd like to aim everything. And then, we have 12 taps at the tap room. If 10 of them were IPA, it would all move.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like,
how do you fit it in?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's always a good point, especially like with a beer program and with your tap room. That's always hard to. I was listening to a podcast I was talking about. Unfortunately, you can have a line of creativity, but money needs to be made to keep the business running.
No question.
And you see a lot of those breweries where it's like maybe they shouldn't have failed because they were so creative, but that's why they failed.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're doing so much that people just aren't right now interested in, or you're in the wrong market, and that's unfortunately it's like you just have to be aware.
For sure. Well, if you get caught left-footed and all you've got is like a bunch of barrel aging wild ales, like you don't have time to pivot.
Yeah.
You're still waiting months before those beers are probably ready.
Yeah.
Which is why you're seeing a lot of the Saison guys, I think, in a really cool way, start to do a little more lagering.
Yeah.
Because I think those things kind of go hand in hand, like just long-term projects.
Yeah.
That's good to see. I think a lot of Saison breweries make great lagers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like talking with Paul last at Ale Apothecary, but even Trevor at DeGard. They've also dived into and getting into clean beer. I know when I was talking with Paul, he's like, we were lucky enough that the Bend community in Oregon was really interested and supported us, and it's been going well for them.
Yeah.
But he's like, in order, like you said, to take that next step to see like where this is going to be in another 5 to 10 years, he's like, we got to have something else for, the everyday drinker, because where Ale Apothecary is, there's like Good Life Brewing. It's like in this business park, and then there's Ben Prost right there.
Oh, wow.
So you have plenty of foot traffic.
Totally.
And they do makers markets, and people will go to Ale Apothecary for their beer, hand over hand. But to get people to walk in, they're like, "Oh, what do you have?" And if they want to try something, they can. But they're probably more prone, newer people, to be like, "Oh, I'm looking for something like this."
Totally.
And he's just like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm not going to sacrifice my values, but I do see that like this is a plausible thing to do." And it's like, yeah, and that's just how you stay. I wouldn't say stay relevant, but stay alive.
I would also just say like, I think beer production is ultimately like, there's universality to it, where it's like, sure, if like you have some like creed and like deep like in my bones, the only thing I ever want to do is mix ferment. That's one thing. But at the same time, it's like, it's not sacrificing those whatever you want to call them, like morals to like make a West Coast pale.
Yeah.
Like you can still have a great production of mixed ferment and do like a beer that's just like, yeah, I mean, people like to come in here and crush it. Like there's nothing like sinful about that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would agree.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, I mean, you've talked a little bit about like opening up a second tap room, but like kind of what's next for No Boat Brewing?
Yeah,
I mean, so far it looks like summer's already coming. It probably won't. It'll probably make
No.
everybody depressed when it snows a fuck ton in
Yeah,
April.
yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
We so actually are trying to put together, and we have a really dope roster for our first ever. We're trying to throw a lager fest this summer.
Oh, wonderful.
We have like 15, maybe 20 breweries that are already like in for it. We're just kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's on how to do that. So, like the 20th of July is what we're aiming for. We're gonna throw like ideally like a nice big one-day festival, doing a lot of lagers. We're gonna do a collab brew for that festival too. That'll release then. I found a pallet of single origin French grown Pilsner that we're gonna do as like a Czech Pils.
Oh wow,
it's gonna be sick.
French malt, so much fun.
Yeah. So 20th of July, throwing a big festival. Tickets, I think we're gonna try to aim to release in April if everything works out. On top of that, like just trying to land a good spot for us for a second location. We love our community up here and everything about it, and the question is like, where can we bring our ethos to and our beer to that like makes sense for us too? Like I live in the city of Seattle, so I'd love it to be in the city of Seattle in terms of A, convenience, and B, like I have a deep attachment. And I think it would just make sense for us to kind of function in both communities because our weekend clientele is like all people from the city.
Oh,
so
I think
like if we can bring it there, it's a good vibe for us. And just, I think this summer we're going to try to land a couple beer dinners. I have a lot of really good friends who are extremely talented chefs. And it's just a matter of kind of figuring out how to showcase their stuff here. We have a huge space, but no kitchen.
Yeah.
And I got into welding, so I think I'm going to be welding some grills.
Nice. There you go.
Stuff like
more
that.
Projects.
Yeah, exactly.
More
yeah,
projects.
Just more flat steel and more beads. Yeah.
Good.
And then, for us, we're trying to open a couple new markets for our beer. And I think it looks like we'll be pretty consistently in Portland pretty soon.
I was about to say, if you guys, because I saw that Washington won their lawsuit with Oregon, which I think is great. I didn't know much about that, but when I was at Belmont Station and reading on it, I was like, oh, that's kind of like a stingy thing to do, to be like, oh, we'll gladly accept your beer at a different price and all this, but you guys gladly accept our beer for, much cheaper.
Yeah. So we're working with, I don't think we'll be self-representing in Oregon just because we're too small to do that right now.
Yeah.
But we're working with a couple options to get down there.
We
in 21 did a couple drops down there that were really successful, and then we just kind of had too much going on.
During pandemic.
Exactly.
And stuff.
And there's just too much stuff to firefight around here in those days. So it's like we couldn't keep it consistent, but that's the next goal, is opening that. And just kind of like slowly ticking away at it. I like our size, but I'd like, I'm okay with us growing.
Yeah.
There's definitely a size I have in mind that's too big, and we're not there.
Yeah.
But there's certain sizes I don't want to get to.
Yeah.
But we got a great, like, small, really talented team. And it's just kind of about growing that and growing the community of our beer and the quality of it. Like, we're really focused on that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was reading on your team and about us,
Yeah.
and it seems like a lot of people have been here since the start. So what is your key to like keeping employees and people around other than just your great personality?
We've been open for 7.5 years, and I think our first 3 employees worked with us for the shortest one was for 5 years. So our original team stayed for a long time, and then they all ended up eventually kind of leaving the industry actually into different things they wanted to pursue, and our team now is like a relatively, newer, but like we'd still have employees of over 2 years. But I think retention for us is a lot about. First of all, you have to treat people right.
Yeah.
And give them space where they have, if they want more responsibility or things to do or influence, like you have to provide that chance.
Yeah.
And I'm very much like, the way I view my role here is like, obviously, I can technically brew any of our beers and do whatever needs to be done in production, or I could bartend for, a month if I needed to. But I view myself more as kind of quarterbacking.
Yeah.
And just like giving everyone the chance of like, okay, like if you want to shine, and I'm going to like make sure all the things have come together so that when you show up, it's just game time.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, provided a really good platform for us for having employees who really want to stay.
Yeah.
And we've also launched, a couple of brewers into like some cool careers out of here too.
Oh, awesome.
So that's been fun to have as part of our story as well. And
Yeah.
just building the team is like super important to me. Like hiring and how we have people involved with us is like probably my number one focus, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes care and time, but
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance running a business because it's like, okay, I know the logical things that need to happen to keep this open, but also these are people and people with lives, and I think that I'd say it's impressive and bravo to you because I've worked with a lot of people that I feel like have gotten burnt out on that, and they just kind of default into it's like this is just how it is, and it's like
I mean, mentally it's like, listen, I guess for me it's like, first of all, I don't have enough pride for if you're like, hey, I'm gonna go try something new, like it like hurts my feelings. It's like I get it, like this like doesn't have to be your life, but at the same time it's like we obviously for vital roles like want to bring people in and have them feel like they're part of the family because in our eyes they are. So there's never any hard feelings on people coming and going because it is part of the industry, but I don't say that with like any callous or like
or disdain,
anger. It's like people like I came and went with jobs too. Like I get how it goes. Yeah, like life and circumstances can do anything to you. Yeah, it's at the end of the day. I always tell everybody it's like worst case scenario, we have plenty of beer on hand.
Yeah,
like,
true.
Like at the end of the day, there's a beer. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Well, I think on that note, it's a good way to just be like, you have any last words of wisdom? We're about at an hour, and this is usually where we stop.
Sure. Man, words of wisdom. I don't know if I have many.
I mean, you dropped a lot. Honestly, even that last bit where it's like, I think a lot of people, I have a lot of friends looking for brewing jobs now because it seems like a lot of breweries are hiring, but they want like seasonal keg washers. But then they'll be like, oh, I went in for the interview, and they're like, well, we only want to invest in people that are here for like 3 to 5 years. But even with my experience, their pay was like really minimum wage. And it's just like, it's such a hard dichotomy of like, you can't ask for one thing and then offer something totally different and be like, yeah, but we need you to, we want to see your investment.
For sure. I mean, I think, I guess relative, if you want to call the market a thing, which I don't know if it is, I think relative to the market, we definitely overpay for talent, which is on purpose. And it's not like, oh man, we feel aggrieved by it, but it's like, if we're bringing you in, it's because we trust you and you have a runway. And I think that everyone should hire with that point of view instead of it being like this salty, like, well, if this guy works out, he works out, or if this woman wants to stay, she can like hang. But it's like, no, we want people to feel welcome day one versus like, in 4 years or in 4 weeks, we'll let you like kind of like feel the good love. It's like, no, day one, it's game on, you're part of the family, and then you have to show to us that you are otherwise maybe not part of the family. So maybe it's just like a flipping of that lens, and it's like,
true.
If we want like the team here to function really well, we need everyone feeling really good.
Yeah,
and that matters more to me honestly than anything else. Because it's like if you even owning the place, like I know when there's a bad vibe. Yeah, and I don't want that to be the case. So we'll do everything we can to keep that away.
Heck yeah, that's super perceptive.
Yeah,
and I mean it reflects. No Boat's doing great.
Yeah.
The tap room, everything looks amazing. Beer's awesome. It's been a pleasure sitting down and talking with you. I appreciate it. And
appreciate it. Thanks for coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.